What's up, guys and gals? I'm Ryan. I'm the owner of Cookcraft Metal, and this is our 93 Bronco build. So I guess we'll start off with how we got this thing. This thing literally came to us as a frame with shock mounts welded to it, the suspension hung, and a motor and trans bolted in. We were originally just supposed to do headers and plumbing, and the owner was going to put the cap back on and finish everything else up, and then it never left our shop, and this is how it ended up. Basically, the suspension on this is everything you could buy from Desolate Motorsports. They make super badass stuff. It has their cut and turn beams all plated, their radius arms, 3-inch IBP Kings, 2x2 bump, their shock hoop, their radius arm mounts, their tranny cross member. The front spindles are from Hollander, and we welded some stuff on them, did the brake tabs. It's got a Willwood 4-piston brake. So the rear suspension is also everything from Desolate as well. It's got billet sway bar arms, their sway bar, their front hanger, rear hanger, shackle, their special deaver pack, King 3-inch by 12 bypasses with Desolate's valving, their fuel cell, or sorry, not fuel cell, it's a stock fuel tank with Desolate skid plate, and their rear bumper, their hitch, pretty much everything they make. I know a lot of people are going to be pissed. I wasn't super stoked either, but this was a spare motor from the customer's 6100 truck. So it's a LS3 with a cam. It's the 525 horse motor, and this is what had to go in here. So it's the LS3 with a Colhane 4L80. We didn't go with the manual valve body just because this dude is going to daily drive this thing out in Texas. So sitting there shifting while he's drinking his coffee and whatnot wasn't really on the list. So we built the headers. They're 1 7/8 equal length for the most part, all in the correct firing order, all TIG welded, back purged. Goes into a 3-inch Y pipe, and then from there it's single into a resonator, a big muffler, and then right out the side. So this is Desolate's shock mount as well, and their billet cross member. When we got this truck, it was literally, these were welded to the frame, and the motor and the trans were sitting in there with all the wrong hardware, and this is what we ended up with. So we built the intake. This is a UMP filter. It's like off of a 6100 truck, because that was a spare for his truck as well. So we threw that in there, made some kind of trick brackets. It's got a big CBR radiator with dual fans. We did the aluminum radiator lines. All the plumbing on this is my boy P-Rod. He's the mastermind behind all this, with all the gnarly stainless hard lines and everything. He's insane. I wasn't even gonna touch it. So P-Rod handled all that. It has a factory booster right now with a Willwood master cylinder. The brakes on the low end kind of suck for now, but eventually we'll most likely put a Hydro Boost in it, so that way no matter how spicy the cam is, it'll stop. So we also did the inner fenders, which were kind of a pain in the ass. All the plumbing for right here, this all comes down, and it has, so it's factory Ford air conditioning with the GM pump, and it also has a different condenser, so P-Rod basically scabbed a bunch of stuff together in a bitchin' way, and we just got this thing charged today and it blew 40 degrees and it works. So dude's stoked, we're stoked. So right here in the front of the grill, or sorry, the bumper, we cut this out, put a little grill in it, and it has an oil cooler behind there. And then I drew this up and had this laser cut, this skid plate, which also holds the trans cooler. And then on the back, it's got like a bitchin' shroud with a fan. P-Rod did that as well, super bitchin'. So we got air coming in the front and in the front right here to cool the motor, the trans, and both of those have fans too, so she always stays cool. So all these lines right here going into this bulkhead on the throttle body, these are all breather lines, which go into a catch can way down here. So looks kind of bitchin', it's out of the way of everything, and you know, obviously easy to wrench on if you got an issue. And when you drain the catch can, there's just a little fitting on the bottom, so if it's ever full with whatever may be in there, just drains right out and you're good to go. So we got Baja Designs LP6s up front, which are fucking insanely bright. So 2 ambers, they're obviously on different switches on the Switch Pro. You can run the ambers or the clear. And when you run the headlights, or sorry, the running lights on the headlights, these also have a bitchin' little amber inside of each one as well that turn on with the running light. So on the inside, this thing was basically completely stripped, just the stock dash. So when it was all apart, we dyno matted the shit out of the floor. So there's like 2 layers of dyno mat, I believe, this carpet, and then all the side panels, like behind the sides, the whole entire sides, the roof, like everything is covered in dyno mat. Inside the door panels, literally everywhere. So the owner wanted these suede inserts done and the black carpet on the bottom, so we did that. We threw in some tweeters for him, some bitchin' speakers front and rear. Since it has the LS in it, we had to run a standalone Holley system, so obviously none of the stock gauge cluster would work. So we put this Holley in here, which fit pretty perfect. I've seen dudes now running the big dog in there, which is cool, but this looks kind of stockish too. That was kind of the whole deal with this truck, was he wanted to keep it stock, like a sleeper, but also a ripper. So we're running that. We got his intercom right here so he could yell at people or whatever he wants to do with it. Race radio, so if he's at the races or cruising with his buddies, they could chat. We got GPS right here, so you know where you're going. This is the head unit, so for his speakers and whatnot. We got the Switch Pro right here for radiator fan 1, radiator fan 2, trans fan, off-road lights, amber off-road lights, dust light in the rear, reverse lights, and a horn. We also, with the 4L80, this part was a pain in the ass. P-Rod nailed it again on this. It has a stock shifter, and the stock shifter indexes each time you put it into gear. So you go from park to reverse, it you know, has a notch in the shifter itself. And so does the trans, you know, park, reverse, neutral. So P-Rod came up with this crazy linkage that synced the shifter with the trans completely perfect. So this thing goes into each gear right on the money every time. And then the Holley, we have it programmed as well. So the Holley will tell you which gear you're in, because the Holley controls the motor and the trans on this one. So it also has an NP205 transfer case with a twin stick, which this is something I didn't even know. Both of us didn't even know what was up with this thing. So we got it all figured out. Basically, you can control the front end, low, high, neutral, just separate from the front, and then the rear you could do the same as well. So I guess technically you could put the front and low and the rear and high for whatever reason and it'll work. I don't know why you want to do that, but maybe you 4-wheel drive dudes know why. So this is Deslet's console too. Usually it kind of cuts off in the front, so we added it to kind of just make it all look sweet. We got it wrapped in suede. This is their console as well. We got that coated. And then these are Mastercraft seats, so we had to make brackets for these. The rear seat are for his kids, so that's, if you notice, this thing isn't fully caged. It's a half cage. This is desolate as well. And in a caged car, you would want a harness, but since the front isn't caged, we don't run a harness in the front. So if you do roll and for whatever reason this roof wants to cave in, with the regular seatbelt you can get away. With the harness you're stuck, so you're probably toast. So we got harnesses in the back for the kids with the cage, and it's just pretty much trying to make it look stock and clean. And that's pretty much it for the inside of the front. So for the back, it's pretty cool back here. Like I said, this is Desolate's cage, and then we added this shelf. So just burned some tubes in, threw this plate on there, had it all powder coated and everything. I'm a dummy and left the floor jack at the shop, but you probably know what this is. The floor jack goes right here. We got the jack handle up there. It's spring loaded. This is all stuff from Solo. They make badass stuff as well. This is the Robbie Gordon Speed toolbox. It's got a lot of badass tools in there. Izzy made us this mount for it. We mounted that up. And then the front is just a Yeti, small Yeti box, and throw spare belts, tools, fluids, pretty much whatever else you want up in there. So we got spare tire too with these bitchin' billet mounts. Found those at G&J. There's a Y strap that goes on there, but obviously it's not on there. And underneath this, I don't know if you could see, there's an access panel that's from Solo as well. So his fuel pump, everything is under there. So if you're in the middle of the desert, you need to change your fuel pump, pop that out, pop that panel off, and get to wrenching. So we have this thing. This thing drove me insane. This is all made on the bandsaw and with cardboard and Teflon paper and whatever. And the owner wanted a sliding ice chest mount. So this is kind of what I came up with. Basically, when you pull the handle down, it kicks up the locks, and then you can slide it right out. Pop this open, grab your beer, your Truly, your White Claw, whatever, Coke, and she fits. Lift this back up, disengage, she's locked in. So on this side, we have, kind of can't really tell, but pop this guy in, and that's where your impact is at. So flat tire, pop your jack out, impact, boom, done. Toss her back in. On this side, same kind of deal, but we got spare alternator and starter. So, you know, this dude wants to take it to Baja, so usually you can't really get parts down there, so some, you know, special alternator, special starter for this thing, he's got that. And also too, this is kind of trick, I printed up a little deal, so it's a USB outlet. So if you want to charge your phone, your vape, whatever you want, get that bad boy charged up. And that's pretty much it for the back. Oh, I guess pull this out, you got the battery up front. Clean wiring, that's all from Tanner at Independence Electric. Check him out, he does super bitchin' work. And then yeah, we powder coated it all, threw it back in. Like I said, dynamited the shit out of everything. And new weather stripping. Pretty much everything on this truck, besides the paint and the windows, are all brand new. And I don't know if I said already, but yeah, Desolate. These are S2s, I believe they're called. Kind of printed these little bezels, sunk them into the bumper. And eventually, the front bumper needs to be chromed, or re-chromed. So I think I convinced him to chrome the back bumper to match the front. And obviously these things factory have a tailgate, or a tire swinger. He is completely against the tire swinger, which, whatever. So just threw some bolts in there for now until, you know, eventually if he ever repaints this thing, you can just patch them up. So the wheels, these are actually stock Bronco wheels, which back in the day, like, you'd find these everywhere, and now all of a sudden people think they're gold. So does this dude. So he kept the stock wheels, went and got them polished, and then clear anode. So it's just a factory wheel, 35 mud terrain, 12-inch rotor, 4-piston caliper. In the rear pulls, I don't know, we haven't measured it. It's got to be 16, 18. I would say the front is probably somewhere close. So, like I said, we didn't really need to measure because this stuff is already all set up. Basically, the most important part, you know, cycling, you check your clearances at bump, full lock for all the inner fender, you know, all that, bumper, and then also measuring the drive shafts. Because on these things, the front drive shaft is actually longer than the rear drive shaft. So, drive shaft angle, all that stuff gets kind of weird in the back. But yeah, like I said, travel numbers, not sure. Doesn't really matter because if it's tuned right, it's gonna rip no matter what. And that's what this thing is all about. So that pretty much wraps it up for this sweet hot rod. If you guys have any comments, questions, hit us up. Like, comment, subscribe. That'd be sweet. Also, if you could check out our website, maybe buy some merch, some mufflers, some parts, so we could have the homie Barry keep filming this stuff, showing you guys what we got going on. And that's it. Thank you.